The threat of superhuman AI has sparked a hunger strike outside the offices of Anthropic and DeepMind. The CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, said recently that social media feels really fake recently. Is it all bots? He thinks so. I'm going to break down 20 crazy things that you can do with Nano Banana. Number 4 is my favorite. There's a new AI-powered military robot called Nomad that the world wouldn't need if we were peaceful, but, you know, here we are. Seemingly another breakthrough in longevity. There's a longevity gene protein now that offers the possibility of extended, healthier lives. We're going to talk about the OpenAI and Microsoft tentative deal to revise the partnership. It involves somebody getting $100 billion worth of stock. There's a really interesting new software/firmware update to the DaVinci 5 surgical robot. It adds real-time force feedback to such a tiny detail, it can really feel what kind of tissue that it's cutting through with a knife, in a way that no human hand really could. If you've ever learned about automatons that can build up in crazy ways in the game of life to build amazing structures, AI is now starting to let us do it in reverse. Start with the structure and then learn what the automaton's patterns are. There's a new DeepMind study that reveals a hidden bottleneck in vector search, totally breaks advanced RAG systems, and this is not something we can get over without an entirely new architecture. We're going to share 3 opinions that are on Less Wrong, called the 3 main views on the future of AI, and see how they all line up against each other. And then we're going to talk about Patrizia Bertini's article, When Deepware Meets Wetware, the Uncomfortable Truth about Responsible AI. But first, if you could hit that hype button here on YouTube, that would mean the world to me. So please hype this video. And if we can get the hype total over 25,000, which is about my sub count, then it might start showing it to a lot of new people. And that would really help me grow. So hype this video, and now let's dive in. First off, today I want to introduce you to one of the top AI tools that I have been using recently, Proactor, and it totally is leveling up my productivity. What if your AI could actually anticipate your needs while you're talking and act on it? Well, that is exactly what Proactor AI does. It is the first truly proactive AI teammate. So think about this. Instead of just waiting for commands, it listens in real time. It understands the context in real time, and it gives you AI advice instantly, before you even ask. When you're in a meeting, your Proactor is recording everything in real time. The conversation is happening and proactively extracting the key points and provides you instant summaries. You mentioned that this month sales have dropped. Proactor AI can instantly bring up the related cause analysis. It can provide a refined new market strategy, and it can highlight potential risks. Your hassle-free meeting assistant. Real-time advice, note-taking, and transcription. Proactor AI is the indispensable tool for all of your meetings. So check it out at proactor.ai. Link is in the description. All right, so these are some photos from a hunger strike. It's on day 3. It's in front of the Anthropic and DeepMind headquarters, and look what it says on that sign. Stop the race to artificial general intelligence. I feel for these activists. I think it's a good message to get out there. Realizing how different the world is and how dangerous this is a message that I want to get out there also. So they're staging hunger strikes outside the offices of Anthropic in San Francisco and DeepMind in London to protest the rapid development of advanced AI, which they view as posing a serious societal risk. Now, what they want out of this hunger strike is Anthropic to halt frontier AI development. One of the men is demanding that DeepMind's CEO, Demis Hassabis, commit publicly not to release any new frontier models. And maybe if other leading labs can agree to pause as well, they can achieve their goal. Now, they're emphasizing coordination among labs, suggesting that unilateral action is not enough. And I don't know whether you agree with it or you think it's going to make a difference, or is it silly? Is it helpful? It doesn't matter. There is a growing concern from many people about how fast AI is advancing for many different reasons. And it's a race condition. I don't really see a way to stop it, but managing it, noticing it, getting everybody involved in how extreme it could be societally, disruptively, would be a great thing. What are your thoughts? All right, so Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, has recently been caught sharing some of his unease on Reddit and X. So he's pointing out that social media is starting to feel a bit fake. Now, I mean, arguably it's been pretty fake since the early days of Facebook and especially when Instagram. Now it's hard to really tell if posts are from humans or bots. And Sam Altman pointed out that in some cases, even like the growth of OpenAI's Codex models that are able to mass produce this kind of stuff is probably out there creating a lot of it. He said that he even finds himself assuming that the content under what he writes and what a lot of other people write and post are just bots and they're AI generated. So yeah, he's pointing towards the dead internet theory. He says that the main reason he believes this is because people picking up the LLM speak is kind of a tell that maybe they're not real. And he's really in tune with what writing sounds like from a large language model. Plus, algorithms are optimized for engagement. Those kind of models could be much faster at producing content, figuring out, reinforcing, learning what optimized engagement content actually looks like, and then just posting it at scales that humans never could. But then again, remember in the last video, we also talked about how there's some new studies showing that actual humans, totally out in the wild, real people talking to each other in coffee shops, are starting to sound a little bit more like the output of ChatGPT also. So there's certainly a chicken or egg thing where that kind of content is also changing the way that we actually speak. It's like that blurring of the line between human and machine. It's pretty striking. By the way, it wasn't also until this article that I've ever heard the term astroturfing. Maybe that's something all you guys know, but did you know that's a word that people use when something is like meant to look like it's like grassroots and natural, but it's really just manufactured or coordinated? All right, so if you are watching this video, you might have clicked on a thumbnail for my video, and I will say that I've been using a lot of Nano Banana. I think this is one of the most powerful image generators around, but I use it like Photoshop. I change what I want with text, and it is just so convenient. I love it. But Pradip Caddy actually put this on Medium and had some insane things that you can do, so I wanted to go over a few. I won't spoil them all. There's 20 of them, so you'd have to read this on your own because he put a lot of time into this, but look at how interesting things you can do with it. Just through a text prompt, change background or nighttime with dark lighting, boom. Give me a buzz cut hairstyle, boom. Like, that's crazy. It's the same face, but it's a different haircut and it looks natural. Transform into a professional headshot, black suit, blue tie, calm backdrop. Turn this image into a 1970s photo with changed outfit and hair. I mean, come on. Have you ever seen Sundar Pichai looking like that before? And it's pretty much right, I think. I mean, it's just a different haircut and outfit, but same look, same teeth, same facial structure, same beard. If you want to find out what you might look like when you're 70 years old, it's like kind of humanizing, I guess, to do that once in a while and just notice your own mortality. Nano Banana is for you. And there's plenty more things that it can do, so check out the article. I mean, I will say it's pretty insane that I can just ask for something like this. I have a prompt where I upload this face, which is like the main one I'm trying to use for thumbnails, and I just ask for something. I say, on the left, give me blank. And this one, because of the article we covered at the very beginning, I wanted somebody doing a hunger strike saying stop. I said, give me a person that's going through a hunger strike, they're holding a stop sign, and then on the right side, a super intelligent AI, and it shows the robots. I don't know, it's just like I can connect articles to my thumbnail so quickly, and I can just hit refresh a few times so I find one that I like, and then boom, I'm out the door. STOP, it got the text right, it looks like it's in a stop sign to me, and it works pretty good for just all sorts of stuff, products and lighting and all that. All right, so what's your thoughts on this military concept? It is, actually I think it's being built, but it is a AI-powered scout. So we're just talking about a little ATV thing that's completely automated in the way that it moves, but it's also keeping an eye on the person that's its guide and trying to help them in various just human ways. It can understand hand signals. You can put a drone on it. It's solar powered, so it powers itself up all the time. You know, obviously you can put those like weapons and stuff on it if that's the military thing that you're going for. And imagine a person walking around now with maybe dozens or hundreds of these things, all aware of who their like owner is, their boss, like who they're supposed to be taking commands from, and then also making intelligent decisions on how to, you know, surround the person, to be a lookout, to signal when they see something. Obviously, someone's going to build stuff like this, but it's just so interesting to see the world we're living in now where this is kind of just about firmware updates and working out the details now. So there's a new longevity gene that we should talk about. Scientists in Italy have studied a gene associated with very long human lives. And they found that those genes make one specific protein way more than anything else. It is called BPIFB4, BPIF4, I guess is one way you could say it. And they found that this protein seems to give blood vessels a way to stay youthful. So when mice prone to heart disease were given this gene, they had healthier arteries, fewer atherosclerosis plaques, and reduced inflammation. And then in similar tests that were done on human blood vessel tissues, this BPIFB4 also improved the vessel health in the human tissue. Oh, that makes me want to start testing it on humans, I think. But I know it's a gene and that's pretty sketchy, but people who naturally already carry higher levels of this BPIFB4 tend to have healthier blood vessels, so it does seem like a promising direction for researchers. And the idea is that maybe someday we could administer this protein. Maybe the protein by itself manufactured somewhere else. Maybe we could do gene therapy, something like CRISPR in the future. And then that would slow down cardiovascular aging, even in people who don't naturally have that longevity version of the gene. So some studies are mentioning that we could deliver the protein rather than the gene, and that could be safer and more controllable, but proteins often have a shorter lifetime, and you probably need to do repeat dosing all the time, so there'd be cost and stability issues along with that. But also changing your genes is changing your genes. It's a big deal, and for the most part, unless you're a billionaire like Brian Johnson, most people don't do it. All right, so the Microsoft OpenAI frenemy, friendship, hatred, and love and everything is making itself known as always. And it seems like they're going to figure out a way to turn it from a nonprofit. So Microsoft and OpenAI have agreed in principle on a revised partnership. So they have formalized what they're going to do with something that's kind of informal. They call it a non-binding memorandum of understanding. But what's interesting about it, ChatGPT and OpenAI has pioneered a lot of stuff recently, and their product guy, Sam Altman, is absolutely insane in the way he's growing this company. But this will allow OpenAI to restructure itself, which is what they've kind of been stuck on for a while. Now, the key change is that OpenAI's nonprofit parent will retain control, but it will also, as a nonprofit, receive an equity stake in a new for-profit public benefit corporation. And why would Microsoft be okay with this? Well, because they get to continue to have access to OpenAI's technology, and that's really what they need. What do you think? Is it just weird? Is it like when Twitter was sold to xAI, but they're both just companies that one guy owns? Is it something like that? Is it something underneath it that I'm missing? All right, next up, let's talk about AI-based surgical robots. So I found this pretty interesting. There's already a robot that's, still pretty new. It's like 6 or 7 months old, called the Da Vinci 5 surgical robot. And it is basically the gold standard right now in precision, safety, the kind of thing where somebody, say in the United States, a doctor could use it to perform a surgery in a place across the world, teleoperated. And the robot in the other location would be cutting and actually doing real surgery on a real person. So it is full of cameras. It is full of very intricate, very carefully placed robotic arms. And it's got all sorts of kind of advantages that a real surgeon doing a surgery might not have, like video replays and the ability for the arms to actually be more steady than the teleoperated possibly slightly shaky hand of the human. But the one update that was like a software firmware update that they just made, I found pretty interesting. It is called the Force Gauge. It is a visual indicator showing how much force is being applied by the instrument's tip. It's got a force feedback, and it can feel forces in the range of 0 to 6.5 newtons. Okay, so for reference, a fingertip touch in humans can typically detect forces as low as approximately 0.05 to 0.1 newtons, and they estimate that's like the weight of a paperclip. And if you're doing a precision grip task, humans naturally operate in between 0 and 20 newtons. That's just something where you're being careful, like you're not squishing an egg, but you're like holding it enough that it doesn't drop out of your fingers. And surgeons, when they're applying stitches or sutures, their force is about 1 to 5 newtons in range. So what's crazy about this to me is that technology can have software updates, there can be hardware updates to way superhuman levels of detection. And then what we can do is see, essentially feel and cut through tissue in a way that's so much more precise. I mean, we could feel, this machine can essentially be trained through machine learning on a sensor data that would, feel to it in the sense that it's learning about those pressures in ways that humans can't. And now maybe a machine like this, even with a human trying to say, cut delicately around an organ or something on the underside of skin, maybe the human goes a little bit too far and it's like, no. Like, I know what you're doing here. You're trying to cut this thing out. And if we go as far as you tried, that would be a little too much, and then stop. It could be like this augmented way that we could be even safer. So maybe a teleoperated robot like this even makes sense when the doctor's in the same room with you, just because that way they can be that much more precise with machine learning, augmenting what they're doing. All right, next up, let's talk self-assembly. Now, this article is talking about a recent advance in neurocellular automation, which flips the usual process of Conway's Game of Life on its head. So you've probably already seen this video with 5 million views, but basically those little dots, all those patterns you're seeing are just a few simple repeating patterns. And, depending on how you play with them, they can do all sorts of cool things. Like, doesn't that look sort of like a society or something you might see organically in the biological world? Look at shapes like that. Just seems so fascinating to know that you can write down just a very, very simple equation and all of that can come out of it. Look at all that stuff. Looks like some kind of a flower, some kind of a city, some kind of a magical donut. But in this case, instead of starting with rules and seeing which patterns emerge, these researchers started with a large target pattern, say like a lizard or a butterfly that was kind of made in sort of a similar way to this grid. And then they trained a neural network to discover simple local rules that will self-assemble that pattern from scratch. This is cool stuff, man. That means that the pattern can even regenerate after damage. Think about things like hidden variables, randomness in updates, and continuous rather than strictly binary cell states. Essentially, they've automated the reverse engineering of rules that produce complex patterns. That sounds to me like science in a nutshell. And new models like this are demonstrating robustness, regeneration, and the kind of bottom-up control form that is going to help us discover so much, I think, about the natural world. And the other weird thing about this is that, say you take some of these shapes, and you might think to yourself, if you remove a few parts of it, it could break. But almost like the human body or things that you see in the natural world, it turns out mathematically that a lot of times when you take something out of this, it just repairs itself and goes back to its shape. Like, it has a certain robustness that's sort of built in at a true physics level of the universe. These patterns, in some cases, are surprisingly resilient to change. Even when the system deals with randomness, noise, asynchronous updates, it just seems to get back to its pattern. I don't know, that just reminds me of biological stuff, and it makes me wonder about consciousness and everything in the universe. Okay, so DeepMind has come up with a proof that the systems we're building, these RAG systems, these retrieval augmented generation systems where you kind of are mixing databases, but you're doing them with vectors and then you're putting AI on them, which should make them more real because they have a bunch of real data in there to pull from and to think about, actually have an upper limit. And this might be a big problem for that whole industry. So they found a fundamental limit in the usual way AI systems do vector embeddings for retrieval. So the issue is when tasks get more complex, especially when queries require fetching sets of relevant documents. So maybe a company has tens of thousands of documents and they're all in this big vector space and you're using LLMs to go in there and put information together. That standard approach of using a single embedding per document ends up hitting what Google's DeepMind team is calling the critical point, where it can't represent all the needed relationships anymore. But yeah, point is, even in the best case scenarios where embeddings are perfectly optimized and there are no language or data constraints, the single vector approach still fails when the number of documents and the complexity of relevance combinations grow to such an extent that it can't do it anymore. So you actually can't scale your way out of this. This is a geometrical problem. And everybody's always like, you can just scale your way out of everything. Well, maybe some other things, but not this one. All right, we had so much fun on the Less Wrong blog a couple days ago. I was like, let's just come back. This article is written by Alex, Ava, and Andrea. They're going to break down the 3 main views on the future of AI and how they relate to each other. It's definitely worth a read, but I'm just going to break down these doctrines because I feel like they're pretty useful to find out where you fit in. It's almost like a Cosmo quiz. We could see, which AI doctrine are you? Are you the dominance doctrine? The idea that whoever builds very powerful AI first will hold a huge strategic advantage. If you do, that means you believe that progress happens fast, especially because AI helps build AI, and whoever reaches ASI first basically dominates. The dominance doctrine. Or are you number 2, the extinction doctrine? Similar assumptions about the fast progress and powerful AI, but here the belief is that we won't get control in time. That means that humanity might lose control, possibly suffer disempowerment, or even go extinct. That is the extinction doctrine. Or maybe number 3, the replacement doctrine. So AI doesn't get to superintelligence anytime soon. Instead, we hit some sort of a plateau, and meanwhile, weaker artificial intelligence brings big gains to economic, scientific, powers, but then at the same time, it brings all these serious job risks, manipulation risks, concentration of power risks, inequality risks, and it's just a slow replacement issue that we're going to be dealing with. So let me know in the comments, which one are you? Do you think the dominance doctrine, the extinction doctrine, or the replacement doctrine is going to be the most likely future for you to live in? By the way, if you leave a comment that says which one you are, this dominance doctrine, this extinction doctrine, or this replacement doctrine, and also I'll be interested. I'll make a comment. I want to learn too from you guys. Now let's talk about Patrizia Bertini's article, When Deepware Meets Wetware, the Uncomfortable Truth About Responsible AI. All right, so in this article, she's essentially saying that deepware is AI, right? And wetware is like human brains. And that deepware is growing rapidly in capabilities and deployment. We've been letting our own judgment, ethics, responsibility, all of our wetware slip to the wayside because we are depending too much on deepware. So rather than putting humans in the driver's seat, many organizations are rushing deployment without checking for bias, verification, or long-term impact. And the result is AI systems that replicate and amplify existing injustices, so gender bias, healthcare bias, and these organizations are confusing speed with innovation. And behind it all is what she points at, a diffusion of accountability, and that's the AI's fault. To do AI responsibly, she argues that we need human oversight, critical thinking at every layer, hardware to software, human in the loop, and through deepware, and especially in how we design, deploy, and maintain these systems, the call is to slow down, think bigger, especially about systemic effects, verify, and ensure people stay accountable. All right, and finally, let's talk about 7,000 years ago. Time travel with me. Azanta wrote this forgotten prehistoric war that killed 95% of all men. So remember, farming about 10,000 years ago, fire about 1 million years ago, but 7,000 years ago, something happened that permanently left a scar within our DNA. So as we really think about AI and our chances of getting through this AI singularity, you should just know there's archaeological evidence and genetic evidence that as far back as recorded history, far before the rise of organized kingdoms or other states, far before the invention of sword making and treaty making, humans were already involved in large-scale intergroup conflicts. So conflict based on the seminal study of genetics suggests that this happened about 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. And it was so bad that it cut the already existing male population, most of the known world, down 95%. And they know this because the mitochondrial DNA inherited over the maternal line did not show much change, whereas Y chromosomes, which can only be inherited by men, display signs of a sudden catastrophic failure. Anyway, if you read the whole article, you'll see some arguments for why the author is claiming that this huge drop wasn't due to famine or disease, but basically just to widespread warfare. You tell me, what are we supposed to do with archaeological evidence of this, right? There's archaeological evidence of mass graves with decapitated bodies. They're mostly adult males. There's even kids and elderly people. It's almost all male. It's scattered across many regions. Doesn't seem like it's geographically located in one place. So, I mean, maybe they're wrong. Maybe this information is pointing in the wrong direction, but it's a theory. And the idea is that there was a prehistoric war or many wars so vast that it reshaped human genetics. And look, if we're going to get through this, we got to be better than we were 7,000 years ago. We have to use this modern technology we have to augment our natural desires for war and conflict. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Oh wait, hit that hype button before you go. Hype, if you wouldn't mind. That really helps the channel grow. And yeah, we'll keep doing these curious findings for more and more people to learn about this curious world we're in. Thanks for hyping my video. See you guys in the next one.